Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, and with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Oh, welcome back to another episode of On Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey player Charles DeBow IV of the Blue Water Stars of the Michigan Independence Hockey League. Charles has spent his professional career mainly in the Federal Prospects Hockey League and overseas in Finland and Ukraine. And he is also a current player and assistant coach in the Michigan Independence Hockey League with the Blue Water Stars. Prior to turning pro, Charles spent time in the GMHL and the EMJHL, as well as 4 years of college hockey at the NCJAA level and the ACHA Division II level. Charles and I's path came across over this, not summer, the fall, when we're at Vermilion County Bobcats free agent camp, and once again here in the mill with the Blue Water Stars. So it's an honor to have you on, Charles. So welcome to the show, Charles DeBow.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to get you on. Like I know you're full of stories, especially since there's a lot that has happened over the last like couple years for you. But how's everything been with you?
Man, everything's great, man. Definitely this year's been a big surprise, from the summer till now. Just the way everything happened. I didn't know I was going to be in Michigan a couple weeks ago, like when I did, but, Torgerson actually reached out to me, and, here we are crossing paths once again. And here I am on the pod. So happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of want to start off with that before we get into like your youth days and leading up to like your professional days. Like you found us in Blue Water Stars in the Michigan Independence Hockey League recently. So, and you played a game with us, and you were not only a big impact on the ice, but you're also a big impact off the ice, and it leads you into an assistant coach position as well as like a player. It's like, what has like the last few weeks been like coming up to Michigan and playing for us?
Man, I would just say like to be honest, like the whole thing was, I didn't really have any expectations or expecting any of this. It's all been a blessing. I'm honored and happy to join you all. Everybody's been great. It's been a lot of love. I know we didn't necessarily get the result we won the first game, but for the most part, it didn't matter to me because it just the vibes were right.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Just like when you start playing hockey for a while and then you start having your ups and downs, and it's just like you kind of know sometimes when it's like you're at the right place, and that's how I feel, in this situation. So, because again, it all happened kind of last minute, a week before, and I'm telling my girlfriend because originally I was actually gonna try to play like senior A in Ontario, and then it was like, well, I don't know, and then going back and forth. Then he got a game here with Delaware, and then all of a sudden, Torgerson messaged me. He was like, "Hey, would you actually, I actually got this team." He's like, could you come this day?" And then I thought it was gonna be 1 or 2 dates or something, and then they're like, "Well, would you return?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." So
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah, and we're very happy to have you with us, especially like I've known you since like the summer or like the fall, so it was nice to cross paths again. Like right from the start, you could tell that like you're a guy that fits right in with the team, and like just like you said, like you know that vibe, and like obviously like the score didn't go our way last game, but we're in a rebuild right now. We're building in the right direction, and we're
Mhm,
playing in Muskegon this weekend. Hopefully, we have a big game coming up for us.
mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. So, definitely looking forward to it. First time going to Muskegon, I think they're like usually one of the top teams in the
Yeah.
leagues.
I think they won the ship last year.
Right, right. So, and I think one of the guys you interviewed played on Muskegon as well. So,
Yeah, I think I've had a few on Gaylord. I know that, and a few. I think one has played for Muskegon before, so it'll be a good time for sure.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, but you also spent time in the Fed this year in the FPHL with the Delaware Thunders. So like throughout like this whole entire year, like what have been some of the biggest things that you learned, especially like when like you're going through like those ups and downs of your career, like you said.
So, if I could just offer any advice to anybody that's listening to this, is just that, like you and I met in Vermilion, and obviously I didn't make it, and but the one thing I took away from it was, you know, obviously, have other interests and things to develop, so you don't, but at the same time, throughout this whole situation, I always kept working out. I always kept skating. I was always staying in shape. So the best thing I could say is just that sometimes it's a numbers game, and that sometimes it's really all about just getting opportunity.
Yeah.
So because again, in summer I was actually getting ready to go to Europe, and I actually had a tryout with a team, Slovenia, IHL. I thought, oh man, everything's gonna turn around, and then last minute they changed their mind, and then I was just kind of like, I don't know. Went to Elmira, didn't work out, and then I was just like, okay, I'm gonna apply to jobs, cool. I still train just because I love it, and then before you know it, New Year's Day comes around, and all of a sudden Delaware, I get a call from the coach who I had talked to months earlier, but just decided not to go to the camp, and then sure enough, hey, we need a guy, can you come? So that's a lot of it. The nature of it in general is that things will just happen when you, and in life too, is just things will happen when you least expect them.
Yeah, and like that's like some of the biggest things I learned too is just to stay ready because you never know when like before like I signed it with Blue Water, like I was just training and like you find like your love for the game like when you're training and like even though like nothing's like coming up, but like you're still going to work every day, you're still training. So like it
Hmm.
just like you love going to the rink and like it helps you like continue that because like once that gets stale, it's like hard with like the motivation and everything. But
Right.
if you're on the like the path to you want to play somewhere, good things are gonna happen sometime in one way or another.
Absolutely, I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah, and like we said, like over the fall, like we were at Vermilion County's free agent camp, and like it's like what was that experience like for you, especially since like it was a good group of guys there, and like we like all I feel like we all like really bonded with like everyone within that group.
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely think like it was nice that Vermilion, they definitely had us like in the team housing,
Yeah,
and then I think it was good because allowed guys to depend on where you're coming from, you spend a little bit less money. But the one thing I will say is though is that about that camp, which was kind of weird to me, and a lot of guys will tell you this, was just that it was full ice 3-on-3 every day. So it's kind of like, well, how do you really evaluate that?
yeah,
But nevertheless, I mean, it was still a great opportunity because, and that's what I always tell people all the time, is that there's value in going to free agent camps
yeah,
because even though the probability of making it to main camp is small, you definitely make a lot of bonds and a lot of connections that lead to other things later.
yeah.
So I would definitely recommend, like, for somebody that's coming up or just getting in, it's like a free agent camp. isn't that's I don't believe every free agent camp is just a money maker. Like some
Yeah.
of them are definitely beneficial, and some of my best friends and I'm still tight with to this very day. I met them from going to a free agent camp. So I definitely feel like there's value in making connections.
Yeah, it's definitely a great experience, and, like, you just like you said, you build, like, a lot of connections, like, even though, like, we didn't really, like, connect, like, there, but, like, we connected, like, a lot more, like, especially the Stars situation and everything, it's like, it was just cool to just have, like, you come in and, like, I'm familiar with this guy because, like, I was at Vermillion's camp with him, and it's just
Right.
builds those bonds, and, like, you never know what opportunity can come because I know some guys at that camp got opportunities because, like, they didn't make it at the start, but a couple days into training camp, guys get hurt and guys get more opportunities.
Right, exactly, exactly. So you really just stay ready because anything can happen at any time.
Oh yeah, exactly. But the last few years before this season, you spent some time overseas. So, like, you were in Finland, you were in Ukraine. So, like, what were those few years like over there?
So, well, Ukraine. Well, I'll start first. So, Ukraine basically came about because the prior to that year, I was playing at Battle Creek and the Fed, and then obviously they had folded and stuff. And so, at this point, one of my close buddies of mine, he was actually supposed to go to Czech two, and then like during this is like so this is almost well now going on 3 years, so this is 2020, and so he ended up going to Ukraine, but then obviously he's like, I need somebody to come with me, so I ended up going talking to GM, and so Ukraine, and mind you, at this point, so I'm like 31 at the time, and so this is my very first time ever flying overseas anywhere.
Yeah,
Like I've been to Canada, but
it's
this
different.
this is my very first time, and so going to Ukraine, it was definitely the customs were different. Um, the people were different. And then imagine you going halfway, and you're
Yeah.
not just you're not really going to Europe. You're going to Ukraine, and obviously this is about what 3 years before the war happened, and so like the way they train is a lot different than how we train. Like for example, so we in the US, we do everything like sprints. Everything's
Yeah.
quick, fast twitch muscle,
Quick tempo.
quick tempo. Like in the summer, if you train, if you're forward D, I'm not sure necessarily how goalies are, but all of us, we're doing 100-meter sprints, or we're
Yeah.
doing 20 yards, 10 yards, 20 yards, you know what I mean, like or
Yeah.
150 meters, like just a quick sprint.
All out, just right
Right.
then and there.
Quick, rest up. But over there, the first day we got there, we did like a what, a 7 mile run. Did a
The
seven
wake-up
mile
call.
Yeah, and then it was crazy because you're doing a 7 mile run, you're running, and then all of a sudden you start seeing a lot of like stray dogs and cats, and you're like, whereas, like here we have, animal control and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Whereas over there, there's so many of them, you start seeing these yellow tags on the animals' ears, just saying that, they've been checked, like for diseases. But, you see some of these dogs and cats are sitting down, look depressed. It's kind of sad, but you start to learn to live with it. But then um, one day we had to do like 16 350-meter sprints, and this is all before we're going on the ice. And so and one of my friends from prep school, I remember calling him on the phone because he lives in Ukraine, and I was telling him I'm kind of freaking out because I'm like, bro, like and I ran track in high
Yeah.
school, so I ran 100 to 200, and I did four sometimes. So you'd think, well, like, oh, I'm good, but then I'm like, man, they're really trying to run us into the ground. But luckily, I've been doing a lot of sprint work and stuff, and doing everything I could, just because I'm like, man, it's COVID. I don't know if I'm gonna have anywhere to play.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, was killing it. So my buddy Ryan Owls, who was with me, he and I are out there and, we're killing it. They would have us go against their first line guys. We'd in scrimmages, we'd win 3-0, 2-0. And I would compare it to like the training out there is with kind of like how it is for like how KHL camps are kind of
Yeah.
ran. Obviously, I know it's Ukraine, but that running, and then they would have us do like farmers carries, but it would be like you'd have to carry your teammate on their
Yeah.
on your
Oh,
on,
wow.
um you'd have to do like a series of like CrossFit stuff, so it'd be like 20 push-ups, sprint 10 yard, like you'd be on a football field, or I guess soccer field in their case, like 10, 20 push-ups, get up, sprint 10 yards. Then you might have to do 20 sit-ups, sprint another 10 yards, and then what else? 20 jumping jacks, then 20 jump lunges. And then you do that, but the other difference I'd say is like, over here it's like, all right, you go hard for a little bit, and then you could kind of tell once everybody starts to get tired, then the
Yeah.
coach gives you water. Whereas over there, a drill or something might go for like 40, 45 minutes, just continuous. You're like,
Wow.
man, when is this gonna stop? You know,
Yeah,
and
it's
then you
like,
get
what is going on right now?
right. So, that, and then just imagine, the language barrier. And then I could remember on the first couple days we were playing, I'm not gonna lie, like I was a little nervous. And then obviously, I look different than everybody over there, especially. So you get these weird stares. But then after my buddy Ryan and they realized like, oh, we're actually, fairly decent. Then
Yeah.
all of a sudden everybody knew English. And I was like, dang, so if we weren't
If
if
you're not good, they're
we
not learning your language.
Right. So, but nevertheless, I would definitely say, to sum it up with Ukraine, it definitely prepared me for Finland the
Yeah.
following year. So, but Finland, so to get to Finland, I'm trying to think so originally I was supposed to go to Sweden, and then long story short, all that like fell through.
Yeah.
And so, um, there's a team. There's like it was the AC Giants in the Sumi division, which is like third division in Finland. And so the idea was like, all right, try out, make it, then go on from there. But what happened was when I got to Finland, uh, the GM didn't want to like pick me up from the air. Like usually, it's customary for, say, if someone's flying in, and even here, like when we have people come in, as you've seen, like people come from other countries or
Yeah.
come from, if they're flying in, even if they're North American or whatever, like, the GM or the coach will come up, pick you up. But in this particular case, with this one particular team in Finland, which now they folded, um, the GM didn't want to pick me up, so I had to navigate my way through. And it was kind of funny because like I could laugh about it because I'm asking for directions on, where to take the train and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then we had like a 6-week tryout,
Wow.
which,
Long tryout.
yeah. And then just to find out later, talking to other teams and stuff, once I went to another team, that was like nobody does that. So, just wasting, I hate to say it, but just wasting money. And
Yeah.
we're there, and then and two, unless you're really playing first or second division, like you're like pretty much people are working jobs during the day,
Yeah.
or they're doing other things, like, and at that level, like you're not practicing every day. You might skate like maybe 3 days, but it was a lot of downtime. And so Finland compared to Ukraine was like a night and day difference. And Finland, I'm like, man, I kind of miss Ukraine a little bit because, we were always busy throughout the day, and it was,
Yeah.
more professional, you know. But yeah, and so then that first team in Finland, they ended up not putting my so after like I made the team and everything, we played in like we call it the Suman Cup. So Suman Cup is full of teams of like two divisione, which is like basically like D2 Sweden, same
Yeah.
thing. Four. league. Then you have Sumi, which is third, and then you have some teams in messages. So it's like a preseason tournament. So played through that, got my finished license, but then when it came to my transfer, these 3 4 weeks or whatever, like I'm just like games are coming around, and I'm like, I'm not able to play in the games. They're like, oh, we don't know, oh, your transfer hasn't gone through yet. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, we had 7 imports. Of those 7, I think it was one kid was from Sweden. I was one of 3 or 4 Americans, and then I think we had what two, yeah, 4 Americans, 2 Canadians, and one kid that was like dual citizen. He was like American slash Swedish. And so of the 7, I think they only put through like three of the transfers, like of the imports.
Yeah.
But then the other 4, we was in the stands, and so talking to my buddy who helped set it up, and helped set it up for me to go to Finland, and we're talking. I'm trying to figure out, like why am like what's going on, like how does my transfer take so long when, oh, I'm sorry, and there was another kid from Russia. So I'm just like, how's my transfer taking so long to go through, but yet I signed the same day as these other
Yeah.
4 people. So I ended up calling the Finnish Hockey Federation, which the headquarters happened to be in Helsinki. And so one thing I'll say about Finland, like Sweden, Norway, is that everybody's English is very good. So, they get on the phone and start speaking Finnish, but I'm like, excuse me, do you speak English? They're like, yeah, da, da, da. I'm like, hi, my name's Charles DeBow. I'm on HC Giants, blah, blah, blah. And so I explain everything that's going on. So then the guy's like, yeah, so I didn't even see a transfer request,
Oh,
um, like for your team. So I was like, oh, really? So basically,
that's not good.
yeah, so they basically what the team ended up doing was they ended up taking, because we had to pay, well, everybody on this particular team ended up paying their own like transfer fees.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, so basically they held my money, like took my money and held it. So I basically caught the GM in a lie
Yeah.
and just said, look, man, obviously if this isn't working, like, just give my money back and I'll be out your way. Like
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. And so after about 2 3 weeks, then finally I got it back. And so I ended up leaving there. And then I ended up going to another team that was in a two divisione, and I ended up playing some games there with HT Luya. And they were in a town in called Huttinen. So Huttinen was about maybe a couple of hours, 2 3 hours, I guess, by bus from Helsinki. And the first team was about an hour from Helsinki, uh, but Luya, where I was about, I'd say, about an hour from Tampere.
Yeah.
So which is like, I'm trying to think who's from there. That I think what Sebastian Aho, I think, is from that area. Um, Line, I believe.
Yeah. I think there's somewhere around that area. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you got like Solani from Helsinki, but
Yeah.
like, yeah. So the second place is like, it was a lot better. I was playing and stuff like that, and it was just unfortunate because I'm like, man, this team is actually, even though it's fourth division, they're actually better than the team I was with in third division.
Yeah.
It was ran better practices. They're hooking me up with different things, and literally they put my transfer through in 5 minutes. The only issue was I had already been in the country about 6 7 weeks, and my tourist visa was just
Yeah.
about up. So, and then at the same time, my aunt and uncle had just passed away, so I was just like, it's time. I think I just need to be with my family, stuff
Yeah.
like that. But overall, though, I would go back, like, in just different circumstances. If the opportunity presented itself, I would definitely go back to Finland, and even Ukraine, like, with and obviously the war and everything. But what I tell people all the time is just that just because you might have one bad experience doesn't mean that
Yeah.
everything.
Exactly.
And and two, it's good to go just to get that experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Just good to travel around and just explore other parts of the world that you don't normally get to see.
Right, exactly. So for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so like throughout you played both North American hockey and then you played European style hockey. So like what have you learned about those styles of hockey and like how they're different, like how they're ran, like
So
what are some things you learned from those experiences?
definitely what I will say about this, like you don't really appreciate North America till you're like no longer in North
Yeah.
America. Um, but what I would say is that what I definitely learned is just that even if let's just say like the Fed, like there's guys. I mean, if you look at the Fed right now, like the makeup of the type of players, you've got guys that might have played. Like you got some guys that came from Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
You got some guys who, like I think I forget who he might be on Mississippi or some of the guys from Kazakhstan got KHL games, but
Yeah.
they're playing Fed. You know what I'm saying? The Fed, despite what people may say, is a very good league. You play what 53 games. You're on the ice every day. It's more professional. So like one of the major differences I notice in like Europe versus North America, like in Europe, they don't wear suits to games. You know what I
They're
mean?
just
Like
like tracksuits.
like a lot of track suits. Now, every now and then I've seen some teams, depending on the team, you
Yeah.
might suit, but most of it is majority of it is tracksuits and overseas. Where versus us, everybody's polo khaki down, suits, shirt tie, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think I think down here is a little is more professional. I feel like you're on the ice a lot more down here. The other part I feel like, so like in Ukraine in particular, we would get on the ice and then we kind of go right into it. They wouldn't really give us like five. You know how it's like you get 5 minutes to touch the puck or just get a
Yeah.
feel for everything versus down here there's more time. To like work on individual
Yeah.
stuff. Um, Another thing I would say, the one of the biggest differences is just that it's more because the surface is much smaller, it's quicker, and obviously it's much more physicality. Where
Yeah.
versus over there, it's like you have a lot more time, you have a lot more room to skate with it. Um,
Hold
you
on
know,
to it a little bit more.
yeah, yeah. But I feel like down here is just it's very intense. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's like, and I heard on one of your other interviews, like someone has said that it's much tighter, and I definitely would have to agree. It's definitely much tighter down here. Everything's on top of you, and then on top of that too, if you look at it like this too, I feel like it's a lot more competitive down here because you not only you have to deal with guys. Say if you play Fed, you have to compete with guys that might have um played SP, or you might have somebody that might have played ECHL or got a game or two, and then they're
Yeah.
coming back down. You also have to compete amongst incoming guys from college and juniors. You have to compete amongst to fight for your spot with guys from overseas, because then you
Yeah.
got another group of guys that are like, man, I want to play in the U.S. And then sometimes I've noticed that because guys might be from overseas, they might get the benefit of the doubt or a bigger chance just because down
Yeah.
here. Whereas over there, just because you're an American doesn't mean somebody's just automatically give you a chance. Or if anything, it's probably a little bit more intense, I think, over there, or at least like the requirements for some of these teams with like imports, like over there, it's like they're just not realistic, like the expectations. So, but at the same time, it's like, well, you know, you you might not have to spend as much money staying here
Yeah.
versus going over there, or and then the other thing too is we don't really have we don't really have um like this stuff with transfers and stuff. Like if there is, it's just like the teams take care of it, and then
Yeah.
that's not like,
It's just said and done right away.
exactly. So but at the same time, I mean, for me, I just tell people that it's really like it's always like a crapshoot
Yeah.
because yeah, there's more advantages to being home, but then at the same time, it's like, well, if you go over there, you might be able to get around some of the hurdles here.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of it's always a lot of pros and cons, and it's just to me like anything else, there's really no science to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like you just like the experiences you get from all these different places is unreal, and like you get to see different parts of the world, like learn different like areas of the game, like over in Europe with like more ice, so it's like more hold on to the puck, more like I wouldn't say skillful, but like there's more time to make a play, and then like here it's just like run and gun, like everyone's on top of you right away, and like
Hmm.
you don't have that much time to move the puck compared to overseas, but like they both have like their advantages and their disadvantages.
Hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, but then you also got to spend like you came back, or you were in Las Vegas at one point in your career with
Yeah.
Las Vegas Jesters and the Mountain West Hockey Leagues. Like what was playing in Vegas like?
Vegas was definitely an interesting story. Just how I ended up getting out there and stuff. I would say like it was fun because like we used to play our game. Well, when I was out there, we play our games at where the Knights practice facility, Golden Knights practice.
Nationwide or no something? Yeah, I know what you're talking about though.
I think it's wow. It's been almost 4 or 5 years now, but yeah, but it was definitely exciting. You know,
Yeah,
it's just again, it was fortunate to play somewhere. And to be able to still get something on the resume. Um, But at the same time, I'd say like playing was fun, but then I think living there, like I always tell people this all the time, like going to Las Vegas on vacation versus living there is two
a
totally
lot
different,
different.
because I ended up having a job on the side as a property manager for a graphic design company. And I was actually just talking about this earlier with somebody that, Vegas, majority of the revenue comes from like tourism,
Yeah,
and that it's heavy on turnover on jobs and stuff, like, you know what I mean? And then on top of that, it's just like, unless you're, like casinos are cool, but after a while it's like it's really outside of the strip, there's really not much to
yeah,
do, and it's easy to fall into other, to get into trouble out there and to
yeah.
get just, some of the shady.
Fall into the traps.
Right, exactly. So, but fortunately, having morals and and just remembering why I went out there, I was able to avoid all of that. But in general, it's just like, I definitely, encourage people to, you know, take the opportunities when they present themselves so they
Yeah.
can have the experience. But for me, it was just like, all right, this is cool. It's a nice 6 months, but all right, time to head back to Maryland. So, but nevertheless, I'm thankful I got to do it, and happy to say that I had the experience and drove cross country, and and it definitely showed me another strength within myself. Within, I'm sorry, it showed another strength within myself that
Yeah.
I can do this. So.
Yeah, and like just like going back to like the experiences, like Vegas is a different experience than you'd probably get anywhere else because of like the all the casinos there, and
Right.
like you said, like yeah, like you get into that like that gambling trouble because of the lifestyle over there.
Gambling, it could be drugs. I mean,
Yeah.
just all kind of things. But yeah, it's definitely a different world out there. You know what I mean? But
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I want to get into your college days a little bit here. So you spent 4 year or you spent 3 years in ACHA Division II and
mhm.
1 year in NJCAA with Gustavus Adolphus College, and then you went into University of Akron and then University of Maryland Baltimore for your final 2 years. Like, what was college hockey like for you?
So college hockey, I mean, I'd have great summers, training
Yeah.
wise, but initially I started out at Gus Davis Adolphus College, which is like a Division III in Minnesota. But to be honest, like I was recruited there, and then once I got there, it was like I just did not play. Period. And was the coach had recruited me, and like the typical recruiting pitch. And then once I got there, it wasn't quite what I thought
It's
it was.
completely different.
Completely different, blowing smoke. You know how that goes.
Oh yeah.
And and so it just got to the, and then because I had gone there, because there were other schools that I could have gone to for
Yeah.
NCAA, but you know how it is like sometimes you end up going somewhere and then it's just like, things don't quite work out. And then it's like, then when you try to go somewhere else, then because of what you just had over here, then it makes it difficult to go somewhere at that level. So sometimes you got to drop down. So at this point, I was just like, you know what? Like I don't even like it out here. Like we're in the middle of, we're in the middle of nowhere. It's really not a lot to do. And coming from, the Washington D.C. area, from a big metropolitan area, it's just kind of like, man, this is like my high school,
Yeah.
because it was a college full about, I want to say 1,500, maybe 2,000 people, and that's like the same size as my high school. So at this point, I was just like, you know what? The work is overly difficult and all this, and I wasn't enjoying myself. And so then I ended up just saying, you know what, I'll just transfer. I know this coach over here, and actually one of my buddies who went to Shattuck, and his brother became a coach. And actually his brother, this guy Michael Sajati, I believe he was teammates with Jack Johnson, I believe. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I thought Crosby, because I know they told some stories
Yeah.
about this when
I've
they're.
heard.
And so, and I just said, you know what, at this point, um, I'll just go into Akron because it's only 6 hours from Maryland. I'll just play. And I ended up making Dean's List, and hockey wasn't necessarily all that, but nevertheless, I was thankful I went there, because then it helped me to go to UMBC. And then once I got to UMBC, then we ended up going to nationals and finished like fourth out of 120
Wow.
teams in the country. So, it's definitely, I'd say college was a little bit of a challenge, but nevertheless, I was glad that I graduated and finished, and again, just continued to persevere regardless of what was going on. So,
Yeah, and like academics is super important, especially like at the college level. So just being able to like balance hockey
mm,
as well as like your academics and still like pass and get a degree, like that's something to be extremely proud of. And like it's difficult, especially being a student athlete, but if you put your mind to it, you can do it.
right, absolutely.
Yeah, but like what were some of your favorite moments from college hockey?
Favorite moments, I would definitely say going to like being at UMBC when we went to nationals, or just everything in the route, the route, and winning Atlantic Division to get to nationals, then going to Boston, um that whole experience is definitely something, that I'll be able to hang my hat on, forever, pretty much, and just say, yeah, remember that time we went to nationals. And unfortunately, we didn't win the whole thing, but nevertheless, it was hard enough to get there as it
Yeah.
is, just with 120 schools in the country. So to
Yeah.
be out of that.
Like, yeah, so like getting through like that grind and everything to get to nationals, like as well as anyone else, like it's a grind and you just gotta embrace everything that's thrown your way, because once you get to like that national level, like like that's the top of the top, and you just gotta battle your way through whatever team, whatever games you're playing, you just gotta keep battling.
Right, absolutely. And just like, ultimately the best thing I could say about that was just like, it was difficult, having 6 a.m. practices and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But, again, I felt like it was rewarding, because it was just like, you're getting out what you put in. You know what I mean? So, and then, and that's a life lesson too. Like you always, in the excuse me, in the end, it's like things always work out one way or the other. It might not be the way we wanted it to, but as long as you always put the work in, you're gonna get out what you put in. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And like when you do play at like that national level, like you learn a lot because like the regular season's like the regular season, and like once playoffs hit, the national rings hit, like that's when like it's another breed, it's another like everything gets like your body gets pushed 2 times harder than it normally does because like
Right.
every game matters then. It's like what did you take out of playing at nationals?
Definitely that you can't keep doing like you said it. You said it before. Like one of the biggest things I noticed, at least, because like from a coach's perspective, is just that sometimes when it's a close game, sometimes I think like when people start losing close games, it's not the skill.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got out coached. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, making adjustments, reading and reacting to what's going on, and then being able to play the game within the game, like matching lines, knowing if, for whatever reason, when this person is out here, hey, maybe I should put so and so's line out there instead of this one, instead of, you know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
not again, like we see this all the time with, what's the definition of insanity? Doing something over and over, expecting different results.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, I feel like that's like a common thing. I think across all sports is just that when it comes to playoff time or nationals or stuff, or the games that really matter, is that you got to be able to make in game adjustments.
Yeah, just gotta be willing to adapt and like just experiment with different guys. Like if you know, like you said, if a guy does this, like put like your top line out or something like that. Just always be adapting to the situation. Yeah, but I want to get into your youth days a little bit here. So you grew up in Arlington Heights, Illinois. It's like what was youth hockey like for you?
So to be honest, so my youth hockey was a little bit different, I think, than the typical kid, because I actually learned how to skate when I was 7, and this was like in Southern California.
Yeah,
Then I played instructional in Southern California for about a year or two. Then we moved back to the Midwest, because my grandfather, my mother's father, was sick, and so went back to went back to Gary, Indiana, and then because that's where I'm originally from, and that's where my mom's from. Dad's from Indianapolis, and so hockey at that time, what I can remember, so I started playing out again. Was I want to say like 10 or 11, like that was right around that time, and at that time, I can remember watching the Chicago Wolves on TV.
oh yeah.
Blackhawks were terrible at the time, but I do remember, like to give you a kind of time frame, like Chris Chelios was on the team. Tony Amani was
Yeah,
still in the Blackhawks. Um, I want to say, was it Sullivan? I think
yeah, I
Sullivan
think so.
around that time. I'm not sure if he was actually on that team, but Blackhawks weren't necessarily that great. But every time on WGN,
Yeah, WGN.
WGN, I was always you'd always hear about, Chicago Wolves, or Rockford Ice Hogs. Um, and every so often I could remember learning about what Chicago Steel was, and I can remember, like, being 10 years old, getting USA Hockey magazine, 10 or
Yeah,
11 years old, USA Hockey magazine, and then be talking about Chicago Steel. But at that time, we're going back and forth to like Homewood Flossmoor, to skate, and it was more so, it was like, well, I couldn't really differentiate between like Chicago Wolves and Chicago Steel. But I definitely will say that, hockey was definitely a big thing.
yeah,
You know, I still feel like it is down in Northwest Indiana and Illinois and stuff like that. But for the most part, like the Blackhawks weren't back then weren't like
The big it was like the Wolves are the big thing back then.
right, exactly. Or at least you know what I mean. Versus, they well up until that little period. I mean, obviously historically, Blackhawks have won a cups, but during that
Yeah.
time, they were just unfortunate. It's kind of like now, they're not.
It's on a drought.
They're on a drought, but at least now in this drought, they're sitting on 3 cups during the drought. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah, build a little dynasty and then go downhill, but hey, we still got the cups. So that's all that matters. 3 and 6 years.
I'll take it. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like what like you always talk about like everyone talks about like all like youth hockey was like youth hockey memories and like how like it is just so much fun like playing youth hockey. So like what were some of your youth hockey memories? Like a lot of guys will say like just playing on the pond like when it's ODR season, just stuff like that.
man, I fortunately, like coming out to Maryland and stuff, I definitely have a number of memories. I would say one of the memories I have would be, well, like first time I skated on the outdoor rink when I went to go see my god brother in Michigan. That's something that I always remember. Definitely the very first time learning how to ice skate and
Yeah.
falling flat on my face. Um, to very first time I went to Montreal for a
Yeah.
hockey tournament to or to the first time I went to Toronto years later, or playing in a championship game in prep school, winning a state championship for my high school team, um, nationals. I mean, it's to me, it's I can't really, I've been very fortunate to have some of these experiences that but I probably say, you know what, I take that back. One of my biggest, I think something that I'll always like cherish is that the day I got to meet Jarome Iginla. That was probably, I think, one of the biggest things. Like probably him and seeing Crosby play in person for very first
Yeah.
time when he was playing for Shattuck at Nationals, and they happen to have him over here at Laurel Ice Gardens in Maryland. So, and then everybody's saying, this is the next Gretzky, and this is, he's 15, so I'm
Yeah.
13. I'm in hearing this, and then you start to see him play. You're like, oh wow, this guy is really good, and then you be forgetting this guy's only 15. He looked like an
Yeah.
18, 19 year old. He's only 15. So I say probably those two in particular, definitely.
Yeah,
You know.
those memories are like what gets you into the love of the game because hockey is such a fun sport and like we all love it. It's just those are the moments that bring us into like the moment where like we love the game.
Mhm. Exactly. So it's, you always want to always, no matter what you're going through, even when the downtimes, always remember, what was the reason why you fell in love with playing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But before we head out, let's hear this Jarome Iginla, like how you met Jarome Iginla story.
Yeah. So basically, guy I was doing on ice with, basically one of the people I knew at the time. He was voice of the Capitals, and so we ended up deciding to just go up there. Like we took a I was back from prep school, and coincidentally, so the Capitals happened to be playing the Calgary Flames in DC, and so we ended up going to see one of our friends, and then he basically had a stand there back right where the players come out,
Yeah.
locker room, and so the first person actually who walked out before Gendler was Donald Brashear, and
Wow.
so he looks at me, and I was, and he just kind of like nods his head and smiles. He
Yeah.
comes over, gives me an autograph right away. Shakes my hand. He just seemed tired. And then when Gendler came out there, I was just like, he just stopped. He just stopped a bunch of people and looked at my mother and I, and he just did like a double take, and I just smiled and had the biggest grin on my face, and I wanted to hug him, but I was like, nah, I just shook his hand and everything. I was just honored, because I think. So this might have been in 2008, and I want to say what was that 2000 was that 2005? I think he led the NHL in points,
Yeah, 2005, 2006, somewhere around there.
something like that, or '03. It was somewhere around that time. But um, you know, he was just he's very kind, um, patient, talked with me for a little bit, you know, and then the next day I was, you know, a couple days later, because this was all during spring break when I was back from prep school, and then, you know, my dad took me up to Ontario the very next day, and then, you know, we were meeting the people of where I was getting ready to train for that following summer. So I was just like in hockey heaven pretty much, you know.
Yeah.
So it's definitely just shocking and meeting him, and then seeing how tall he actually was in person. I was really shocked, you know.
Yeah, that's just unreal, and like Jarome Iginla is like a legend, like especially in the Calgary Flames organization, like
Right,
just and then just to have him be so kind and everything, and just so patient, like makes everything better. It makes you like when you play professional hockey to do the exact same thing that he did because you were in that spot one time or another.
right, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, but I think this will wrap this episode up. But Charles, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time and let's go win some games this year.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me, Jack. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.